again. ASMR Classic, I think that's what we're called anyway. And hot news first. We've actually made 200 subscribers. Thank you so much if you're a new subscriber. Oh, and by the way, if you haven't, then press the button below. I still need to suss out what the proper terminology of that is. You may know that the plan is, if we get to 1,000 subscribers, we can get monetized, I think is the term, by YouTube. They pay us something. And then I want to use that to start writing some sort of collaborative, cooperative YouTube drama, which may well be all ASMR orientated as well. So that's kind of the plan. Thank you also if you've commented on what we've done or what I've done on here. Move this out of the way. As I mentioned before, I kind of got into ASMR when I first got COVID. And I still use it every night to drift off. So I thought this might be a nice compromise. So I've this pen, by the way, it's got a nice little pen. I'll share it with you. It was actually bought for me by an actor. It's bamboo, I think. I've also got a little bamboo pencil, which I'll try and find for you, and apparently it lasts forever. Yes, the pencil never needs sharpening. The first one I broke, which was actually at the Edinburgh, I bought it at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe last year. The first one I bought broke in my bag, in my pocket. So I actually had to buy another one. And in fact, what I'll do is I shall find it and I'll demonstrate it for you on here, just out of a bit of interest. A bit like with the smart writing set that I bought as well. Because perhaps like a lot of writers, I'm quite into my stationery. And I spend quite a lot of time and, probably too much time, really, effort and energy on looking at notebooks. And I've got a lovely one, actually, while I'm here. It's here, over here, under the keyboard. I'm in my little writing office now. This is kind of my, what would you call this? Is it an everyday journal? But you can see it's a kind of, I won't show you any of this stuff because it's sort of boring. But it's plain paper, leather. It's not perfect for writing, to be honest, because it's difficult to sit flat on a table. But I do like writing in it. I also quite like plain paper as well. I think it gives you more chance to perhaps be a little bit freer. Does that make sense? Yeah, so please let me know anyway if you're into journaling or diary keeping, then perhaps leave a little comment and I'll have a look and see if we can find anything. Oh, it's a tax letter. I didn't want to bore you with that. But the main reason for this little video today is that a friend of mine has been in touch. That good old classic moleskin. That's plain as well, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, that's plain. But she was being in touch in that her son, I think I mentioned this once before, her son who has, as a child actor, he's been in some quite big films, he's done a couple of Hollywood films and things, but now he's growing up, he was looking to go to drama school. And she said, could I recommend any Shakespeare speeches for him? Which I did. But I thought I might share this with you, because it's quite interesting to read. I should point out, actually, that I left school at 15 without any qualifications. And I didn't actually get to university until I was 50. But I decided to do a version of Shakespeare's Henry V. It held no fear for me, although I didn't understand it all. But it held no fear because I'd never studied it. And I wrote this play. I went to the Edinburgh Fringe. And it wasn't until we got there with some of the... one particular journalist from one of the Oxbridge papers who was a student was saying, good Lord, you're saying you'll be really famous when you're dead. So thank you for that. But I had a quick look through. And this is again a Penguin Classic compilation. Edited by... When I shall die, take him out and cut him into little stars. Edited by Michael Carrigan. So I hope Michael doesn't mind me sharing some of the speeches in here. And there's a list, some of the lesser known Shakespeare's Two Gentlemen of Verona, Taming of the Shrew, of course, which is always fairly popular. Henry IV, Part 2, Part 3. And Richard III. Richard III's very interesting politically. Because, of course, when Shakespeare wrote Richard III, he was being funded by Queen Elizabeth's... he was basically being funded and working in an environment where the person that had killed Richard III was on the throne. So I don't think it was in his best interest to present him as a hero. But there are actually some interesting elements of Richard III, not least of which he was the last, Shakespeare aside, he was the last English monarch to die in battle. And there is an organisation called the White Boar Society. That was his, I think it was the White Boar, was Richard III's kind of symbol. And they exist, I ought to look them up, I should have looked them up before I spoke to you really, but I'll do it later, basically to sort of try and clear Richard III's name, and to say he wasn't a terrible monster, he was actually a very good king. And if you ever get to Warwick Castle, which is in the English Midlands, Warwickshire, lovely part of the world, not far from where I'm from, Birmingham, another lovely part of the world. If you've seen Peaky Blinders, you'll know all about it. Well, of course, Birmingham's so modern now they had to film most of that in Manchester, but I digress. If you go to Warwick Castle, you'll see there's a huge tower, but it's only about 3 feet tall, and that was the tower that Richard III had started to build before he died at the Battle of, I was going to say Agincourt, we're coming to that in a minute, against Henry Tudor in Bosworth, Battle of Bosworth. But I do quite like some of these. I mean, this is the office one. Let's have a quick look at this. Excuse me again, I'm still snuffling a bit. In fact, I didn't suggest this as a speech for an audition, drama school audition, because they will have heard it many, many times. But it's the opening of Richard III. And again, as they say in this book, with Richard of Gloucester's murderous assistance, his family has attained the power he so eagerly sought. Yet Richard feels more marginalised than ever in this moment of his brother Edward's triumph. Excuse me. And of course, this is how Richard III famously starts. I've seen it done many ways theatrically, but it's still quite a good speech. Now is the winter of our discontent made glorious summer by this sun of York, and all the clouds that loud upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. Now are our brows bound with victorious wreaths, our bruised arms hung up for monuments, our stern alarums changed to merry meetings, our dreadful marches to delightful measures. Grim-visaged war hath smoothed his wrinkled front, and now, instead of mounting barbed steeds to fright the souls of fearful adversaries, he capers nimbly in a lady's chamber to the lascivious pleasing of a lute. But I, that am not shaped for sportive tricks, nor made to court an amorous looking glass, I, that am rudely stamped and want love's majesty to strut before a wanton ambling nymph, I, that am curtailed of this fair proportion, cheated of feature by dissembling nature, deformed and finished, sent before my time into this breathing world scarce half made up. And that so lamely and unfashionable that dogs bark at me as I halt by them, why I, in this weak piping time of peace, have no delight to pass away the time, unless to spy my shadow in the sun and descant on mine own deformity. And therefore, since I cannot prove a lover to entertain these fair well-spoken days, I am determined to prove a villain, and hate the idle pleasures of these days. Plots have I laid, inductions dangerous, by drunken prophecies, libels, and dreams, to set my brother Clarence and the king in deadly hate the one against the other. And if King Edward be as true and just as I am subtle, false, and treacherous, This day should Clarence closely be mewed up about a prophecy which says that G of Edward's heirs, the murderer shall be. Great opening speech, isn't it? And I might just carry on with Richard III, because this is well, it says here as much in love with sort of the sexual as political powers Richard glories in the hold he senses he has over Lady Anne, a woman with every conceivable reason to hate him, and she'll find out now. Lady Anne, they've had a conversation, and Lady Anne has left. Exit. Not pursued by a bear, that's another play. And this is Richard's speech about Lady Anne. Was ever woman in this humour wooed? Was ever woman in this humour won? I'll have her, but I will not keep her long. What? I that killed her husband and his father, to take her in her heart's extremest haste, with curses in her mouth, tears in her eyes, the bleeding witness of my hatred by, having God, her conscience and those bars against me, and I no friends to back my suit at all but the plain devil and disassembling looks. And yet to win her, all the world to nothing. Has she forgot already that brave Prince Edward, her lord, whom I some 3 months since stabbed in my angry mood at Shakespeare? A sweeter and a lovelier gentleman framed in the prodigality of nature, young, valiant, wise, and no doubt right royal, the spacious world cannot again afford. And will she yet abase her eyes on me, that cropped the golden prime of this sweet prince and made her widow to a woeful bed? On me, whose all not equals Edward's notoriety. Motiority. On me, that halts and am misshapen thus. My dukedom to a beggarly denier, I do mistake my person all this while. Upon my life, she finds, although I cannot, myself to be a marvellous proper man. Albeit charges for a looking-glass, and entertain a score or two of tailors to study fashions to adorn my body. Since I am crept in favour with myself, I will maintain it with some little cost. But first I'll turn you fellow in his grave. First I'll turn yon fellow in his grave, and then return lamenting to my love. Shine out, fair sun, till I have bought a glass, that I may see my shadow as I pass. It's a great speech, whether you kind of get Shakespeare or not. It's just, and then of course the famous one, which is horse or horse. I won't do that one now because it's the end of the show, and I don't want to keep you for too long. But I might do a few more little speeches if you fancy it, and perhaps you could just let me know. Or if you don't want me to do any more Shakespeare, we've still got Charles Dickens. We've got that lovely insight into what's his face, Thingy-Bobby, Animal Farm, George Orwell, crikey. There's a couple of performances of that at the Edinburgh Fringe this year, but that is for later. But as I say, thank you so much for your company, and thank you very much if you've liked it. I can't believe we're on 202 followers now, whereas, a month or so ago it was 20. Even though I've had this channel for a while, I haven't been back to it for a while, so thank you so much if you have subscribed, and if you haven't, click the little button, and I think if you press the like thing if you like it. And I hope you found it relaxing, and any suggestions, then do please let me know. And thank you so much for watching. As usual, to quote Charles Dickens, bless us all, everyone.